Hey, it's me again, and I'm here to review the worst movie ever made. That's actually the title. Yeah, the movie's called The Worst Movie Ever Made. Anyway, but before I get into that, I'm gonna watch this video that I uploaded before. It's like 8 seconds long, and I'm gonna react to it because in this video I was about 6 years old, so now I'm like much older, so I need to reflect on it in a way, and I want you guys to watch my reaction just so you know how I feel about it. So, the video's called I Am the Best, and I'm gonna watch it, and you guys can hear my reaction and maybe a few quick thoughts. And then I'll get into the movie review.
I am the best.
You are, definitely are.
Did you give it away?
Oh man. Oh well. It looks like at that time I was really cute and young and energetic. I don't think much has changed. Okay. So yeah, that was fine. It's nothing bad about it. It's pretty funny, I thought, but also kind of embarrassing because now I'm a lot older and wiser and stuff. So it's kind of embarrassing for me. And yet I put it up on the internet, so it can't be too embarrassing now. Anyway, away from that, let's get to the reason why I made this review. This video. This video is made to review the worst movie ever made. Now, why is it called that? Because it makes sense why it's called that. And there's a good few reasons why this is the worst movie ever made. You can tell when you watch this thing. First of all, the acting is terrible. There's one actor in the movie. You can tell there's supposed to be two characters, but you can tell that there's just one actor in the entire movie. And he's trying to act, but it doesn't work. He keeps changing his accents on both sides. Like, apparently the bad guy is one person and then the good guy. And it doesn't make sense because he's wearing the same outfit for them both. So you can just tell it's the same person. And also, he keeps, when he's the good guy, he keeps, like, switching what he's wearing. Like, first he has a hat that's, like, one color. Then the next scene he has a different one. And, like, the next shot, it's the same scene the whole time, but it's a different shot. And suddenly, he has a different hat on. Or he has glasses on one shot, then the next shot, all of a sudden, no glasses. It doesn't make any sense. And yet, that's the way it works, apparently. Also, you don't really hear the guys sometimes finish their sentences between shots or start them. It's really weird in that way. And you can't, and the editing's really weird, how it just goes from wipes and then blurs and fade to black for no reason. It just doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't. It just doesn't make a lot of sense the way this stuff works, and I just don't get it. I mean, why would somebody do it like this? Then you just see how there are shadows of the camera, and you can see how the guy's finger keeps going over the camera, so you can just tell that it's not real. And the fight scenes are not choreographed at all. They're all like, that's literally what happens in this movie. They just go really weird ways that never feels real at any time. And you can just see in one scene how he just gets on the ground as one person, and suddenly he's the different guy by putting a hat on. He gets back up, and that's all one shot. You can tell. You can see where the characters aren't where they're meant to be all the time because of the way the camera goes. You can just tell from all this. It's really weird. And in one scene, you see the bad guy like has a really high-pitched voice, but in one shot, all of a sudden he doesn't for like no reason. And then again he does. And how does that work? It's really weird, and the dialogue is really bad. I mean, you can tell this wasn't written. This is just thought of on the spot. And and also the line delivery is terrible. Like he's trying to figure out what he wants to say or whatever. He just can't say it properly though, and you can tell. And then in the last shot, shot of the movie, apparently he starts changing accents, and then all of a sudden he's like Austin Powers or whatever for like no reason. If I were that guy, I'd be pretty embarrassed from his acting talents. But yeah, it's like really weird in this sort of way, the way it all works, and there's no plot to this. It's just basically two guys hitting each other to save the world or whatever. What? Like, why are they hitting each other? How did they get there? Who are they? We don't know their names in the movie. They have no interactions. It's just hitting and stuff, and you can't even see it properly. I don't get it. Now, with all that being said, what is this movie the worst movie ever made? Yes. Is it enjoyable? Yes. This movie is really enjoyable because it knows that it's the worst movie ever made. I mean, you can tell that from the title. It just makes all these terrible stuff that we all see in movies and we just think, that's just terrible and all. And, you know, we can tell in movies that this stuff is terrible, but usually in the movies, they don't try to make it terrible. They try to make something really good. But here, you can tell that they're trying to make something terrible, and they succeed at that, and it's entertaining. They never make it boring because of how because you can just pick this apart, and it's entertaining when you're picking it apart. All of these problems with the movie, you pick it apart, and it's entertaining in that way. So this movie does its job greatly. The title totally fits. You can really enjoy this movie just for being the worst movie ever made. For everything you pick this movie apart, it just adds to your enjoyment. Seriously, this movie is way more enjoyable than those other terrible movies that don't know they're terrible. They're trying to be good, but they're not. And this movie knows that it's terrible, and it's trying to be. Like, seriously, I checked, and the filming schedule for this movie was literally 5 minutes. They filmed all of the scenes in 5 minutes. All of them. And they edited it in about another 5 minutes. Less even. In fact, altogether, this movie was made in half an hour. Literally. The planning of this movie, the filming of this movie, and the getting it ready and then uploading it maybe another 5 minutes. So this entire movie schedule of getting onto YouTube, getting made, is 35 minutes. Wow. I mean, seriously, that's just wow. And it's awesome in that way because you can just tell how terrible this movie is. You pick it apart, you have fun doing that, and it's short, so it's not like it's going to be long for you, and you're not going to get bored of the picking it apart because of how bad it is and how short. You can just pick this movie apart. You don't care if you talk over the actor because there's nothing that he really says that it does anything to the plot because there is no plot. It's just two guys punching each other or whatever. I mean, you can just see how in one scene he's just punching himself with his arm because you can see his elbow when it's meant to be somebody else. It makes no sense, and it's great because it knows it makes no sense. It's not making an attempt to be good. It's making an attempt to be awful, and it just is, and that's great about it because you pick this movie apart and you love doing that. Seriously. If you didn't like this movie, like, for what it's meant to be, then watch it again, try picking it apart as much as you can, and you are going to love this movie. Seriously, you will. You love this movie if you just want to pick it apart. Now, that being said, the worst scenes in this movie are when the shots are a bit too long. They're not really that long, maybe 20 seconds or so, and when that happens, you can just tell that there is a small amount that looks like it could be good. Whenever you see some potential, it's bad for this movie because any potential it's seen, it's bad. The lack of potential is what makes this movie so great. If there's any bit of potential seen, then that's a problem. And in a few scenes, you do see a bit of potential, and that's bad. So any part that has a little potential is bad. But there's hardly any of that in there, so it's good. This is probably the most entertaining, terrible movie since Plan 9 from Outer Space. I'm being serious. Of course, this one's much slower, so if you didn't like Plan 9 from Outer Space, then you can enjoy this more. So what am I going to give it based on all of this facts? Now, if I wanted to watch this for being a good movie, I would give this a 0 out of 10, totally. But this is not that. This is a terrible movie, and it knows it. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. What, too much? It's a terrible movie. It's what it's meant to be. And those small pieces of potential, well, if they didn't have those small pieces of potential, then I would have given this movie an 11 out of 10 for being a complete monstrosity, and it would have gotten 11 out of 10 if it would have gotten rid of those small amounts of potential. I'm just glad that somebody can make a movie without trying to make it good. Just knowing that it's terrible and making it for that, and it's really entertaining in that sense. Just picking it apart, it's awesome. So yeah, Watch this movie for the short time, pick it apart, write down all of the problems, comment below every single thing that you think is terrible with this movie, on the video of course, and then just know, because I want to know every single fact that's terrible about this movie. It's really important to me. I want to know everything that's terrible. It's like you can know every single fact that's problem with movies these days is right here, and there's nothing good about it. Just comment on the video, and I'll know that, and I might make a reaction on it. So yeah, that's basically what I have to say about this movie. It's a terrible movie. It knows it, so it's great. And if it just lost that little bit of potential that it had, it would have been perfect. But since it had a little bit, I couldn't give it completely perfect because I just can't give it 11 out of 10 for that reason. But since it did what it could, I gave it 10 out of 10, and I'm happy with that grade. So yeah, you should watch this movie. And watch it as a terrible movie. Don't watch it as a good movie. You'll hate it if you're watching it as a good movie. You give it a 0 out of 10. And so watch this as a terrible movie. You'll love it. You really will. And yeah, just do it like that. And if you like the videos that I put up and this one and all, then please subscribe and I'll make more of them. And if you don't like them, then subscribe, tell me, and I'll just make different ones. It's your opinion, really. Yeah, it's not mine, it's yours. So please subscribe and tell me, okay? Okay, so, as always, you don't have to go while you got Timo.